Sojourner Truth, 1797 to 1897, used to be born into slavery, however escaped to freedom and grew to be one of the most mentioned African American ladies' audio system on troubles of civil rights and abolition. She used to be deeply non-secular and felt a calling from God to journey America, talking on slavery and different cutting-edge issues. At 6 feet tall, she used to be a placing presence and used her effective oratory to awaken the sense of right and wrong of America to the injustice of slavery and discrimination. Early life Sojourner Truth used to be born to slave dad and mom, James and Elizabeth Baumfree. She used to be born round 1797 and, at birth, was once named Isabel or Belle. Her family, consisting of 10 to 12 siblings, have been saved on an property in the city of Espouses, 95 miles north of New York. When her Dutch slave owner, Charles Hardenberg, died in 1806, Sojourner, aged 9, used to be bought for $100 to a new proprietor, John Neely, who regularly beat her. She was once then bought between slave proprietors a few times, earlier than transferring to John Dumont of West Park, New York. Unlike preceding owners, Dumont used to be greater kindly disposed and her existence accelerated somewhat, even though she was once stressed with the aid of Dumont's wife. Around 1815, Truth started out a relationship with a slave from a close-by farm, known as Robert. The relationship was once strictly forbidden with the aid of Robert's slave proprietor Charles Catillon, due to the fact Catillon would now not very own any youngsters they had, however they met anyway. Unfortunately, Catillon caught the pair and severely beat his slave, Robert. The beating used to be so savage that Robert later died from his injuries. The painful incident left a lasting legacy, haunting Truth at some point of her life. Later she was once informed to marry a slave named Thomas, who was once 20 years older than her. She had 4 youth with Thomas and 1 infant with both Robert or John Dumont. Freedom from slavery. New York was once one of the earliest states to commence ending slavery. The system used to be commenced in 1799, however slavery wouldn't formally give up till 4 July 1827. However, Truth grew to become stressed for freedom, and after DuPont reneged on an provide to supply her freedom, in 1826, 12 months earlier than the exchange in the law, she took her toddler daughter Sophia and left Dumont. She observed work as a home servant with the Van Wagenen family. Despite the stop of slavery in New York, Truth learned that her 5-year-old son, Peter, had been offered to Alabama, the place slavery was once deeply embedded. With the assist of her new employers, she took DuPont to courtroom to declare he had offered Peter illegally. Truth gained the case towards her former slave proprietor, and her son Peter used to be introduced lower back from Alabama, the place he had been badly treated. It was once a landmark case and the first time a black girl had gained a court docket case towards a white man. This was once a necessary time for Truth, free from the shackles of slavery. She had a non-secular conversion, turning into a devout, evangelical Christian. She spent time with Elijah Pierson, a Christian evangelist, and additionally, Prophet Matthias, who headquartered the Matthias Kingdom Communal Colony. When Pierson died, Truth alongside with others was once accused of stealing and poisoning him. But the case used to be thrown out of court. Later Truth delivered a slander go well with in opposition to these who had made the false claims, the Folgers, and Truth gained her 2D case. Sojourner Truth. In 1843, Truth adopted a new identify, Sojourner Truth. She had been regarded as Isabella Baumfree. The title mirrored her new freedom, non-secular devotion, and her acceptance of the Methodist religion. She later confided that, after her abusive life, her spiritual belief used to Be a supply of excellent solace. Jesus cherished me. I knew it, I felt it. Jesus used to be my Jesus. Jesus would love me always. I didn't dare inform nobody. T used to be outstanding. Secret. Everything had been bought away from me that I ever had. An idea that if I let white people understand about this, possibly they'd get him away, so I said, I'll maintain this close. I won't let anyone know. Narrative of Sojourner Truth, a bondswoman of olden time, p. 159. She felt a calling to tour around America and communicate about the realities of slavery and different varieties of injustice. In her personal phrases she said, "The Spirit calls me, and I ought to go." Her spiritual belief was once necessary for giving her the internal conviction to battle for justice, and if now not profitable in this world, she believed in the last justice of God's creation. But I trust in the subsequent world. When we get up yonder, we shall have all them rights stored to us again. Anti-Slavery Bugle, October 1856. As nicely as abolitionist causes, truth grew to become greater lively in aiding women's rights. Spiritual tolerance, pacifism and jail reform. She joined the Northampton Association of Education, an industry in Northampton, Massachusetts, which used to be dedicated to advertising the abolition of slavery and helping women's rights. Here she met different outstanding abolitionists, such as William Lloyd Garrison and Frederick Douglass. Although the crew later disbanded, she remained shut to some of these outstanding men and women. In 1850, William Lloyd Garrison helped Truth to submit her autobiography, The Narrative of Sojourner Truth, a Northern Slave. Sojourner Truth card. The ebook bought enormously nicely, and the profits from the ebook helped to guide her travels and speak me commitments. She additionally offered small playing cards entitled, I Promote the Shadow, to guide the substance. The proceeds from her ebook and playing cards helped her to pay for the loan on a residence in the village of Florence, Northampton. She started out to supply extra excessive profile speeches, frequently at women's rights conferences. In May 1851, she attended the Ohio Women's Rights Convention, the place she gave a well-known extemporaneous speech, later named, Ain't I a Woman? The speech demanded equal rights for black humans and women. It used to be recorded with the aid of one of a kind participants in the audience. When it used to be later published, it is possibly her authentic phrases have been embellished with Southern phrases, which Truth wouldn't have used, along with the rhetorical query, Ain't I a Woman? Nevertheless, the speech regarded to have created a robust affect on the target audience, and they had been moved through her private first-hand deaths of slavery. Den dat little man in black dar, he say female can't have as an awful lot rights as men, 'cause Christ want a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Rolling thunder couldn't have stilled that crowd, as did these deep, extraordinary tones, as she stood there with outstretched hands and eyes of fire. Raising her voice nevertheless louder, she repeated, Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. Oh, what a rebuke that was once to the little man. Extract of a speech via Francis Dana Gage, posted May 2, 1863. Model in the Anti-Slavery Standard, link, Truth was once additionally an excellent singer, and every so often sang to audiences. At an abolitionist convention in 1840 in Boston, the fantastic orator Wendell Phillips used to be marked down to communicate after her. Worried she was once now not appropriate adequate to communicate earlier than him, she sang, I am pleading for my people to the tune of Auld Lang Syne. Throughout the 1850s and 60s, she gave many speeches. During the country, this used to be a time when public talking was once in excessive demand. In the absence of any radio or present-day media, public talking was once a most important supply of information. The Speak Me circuit was once often dominated by means of white men, so the presence of this imposing 6-feet black girl used to be pretty striking. Her powerful phrases carried authenticity. Due to the fact she spoke from direct right of slavery, she used to be additionally blessed with a powerful, low, resonant voice. She regularly traveled with her grandson, Sammy Banks, who ought to study and write. This used to be a brilliant assist to the illiterate sojourner. Still, it used to be a difficult function, warfare the double prejudice of the age, towards each ladies and these of African American roots. Like different woman audio systems such as Harriet Tubman, occasionally human beings had been even skeptical that they weren't truly men. One apocryphal story relates that in 1858, any person interrupted a speech Truth was once giving claiming she was once a man. Truth spoke back via revealing her breasts. Often audiences have been pretty hostile, with hissing and booing, even earlier than she started. But Truth was once capable to adapt her speeches to the context of the time and used to be adept at dealing with antagonistic audiences. As her recognition grew, her reception grew to become extra favorable. She used to be famous with like-minded abolitionists, although her insistence on the equality of ladies was once radical even for some progressives. She additionally had a sturdy feel of humor and was once inclined to tease these who tended to a greater self-righteous activism or had been involved with frivolous posturing. What form of reformers be you, with goose wings on your heads, as if you had been going to fly, and dressed in such ridiculous fashion? Speak me about reform and women's rights? Narrative, Book of Life, p.243, Sojourner Truth. In 1856, she offered her residence in Northampton and moved to Battle Creek, Michigan. In Michigan she endured to provide speeches and lectures. She additionally widened her scope of political troubles, talking more and more on jail reform and towards capital punishment. As properly as speeches, Truth took phase in direct action. In Washington, she tried to pressure the desegregation of streetcars via touring in white solely carriages. In the 1872 election, she sought to vote in the presidential election, however, used to be became returned at the polling booth. She additionally carried many petitions, urging human beings to signal for quite a number causes, such as free land for former slaves. Speaking to people, she remarked wryly, "Why don't some of you stir 'em, the government, up as even though an historic physique like myself may want to do all the stirring." During the Civil War, she helped to recruit black troops and substances for the Union Army. She additionally sought to attempt and enhance the circumstance of freed slaves in Washington, D.C. Whilst in Washington, she gained her 1/3 court docket case, a non-public damage case after a streetcar incident. After the Civil War, she sought to inspire Congress to provide lands to freed slaves in the West. She argued that solely when freed slaves had their personal land, would they have the potential to assist themselves and achieve an actual feel of dignity. Her efforts by no means persuaded Congress to take action. "I am pleading for my people, a negative downtrodden race who dwell in freedom's boasted land with no abiding place. I am pleading that my humans might also have their rights restored." Narrative of Sojourner Truth, a bondswoman of olden time, webpage 303. For her works and public profile, she obtained to meet Abraham Lincoln and President Ulysses S. Grant. In 1864, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation noticed a most important landmark in civil rights. It was once one of the few stable political achievements Truth noticed realized in her lifetime. It used to be no longer till 37 years after her death, a constitutional amendment barred balloting discrimination on the grounds of sex. It used to be the 1960s earlier. Then balloting rights for African Americans have been enshrined in law. Increasingly frail, Truth died on the 26th of November 1883, aged round 87. Though she appreciated to motivate the fantasy she was once even a lot older, the oldest speaker on the circuit, was once one phrase used. Her tombstone offers her age as 105. In 2009, she grew to be the first black lady honored with a bust in the U.S. Capitol, and in 2014, she was once protected in the Smithsonian Institution's listing of the 100 most good-sized Americans.